Hello everybody, Israel Epstein here with 2 Hour Lunch Show. Today I wanted to go over some reloading stuff. We've actually never done any reloading on the 2 Hour Lunch Show. We do our own reloading, but we don't usually show anybody what we do. It's not like it's a secret or anything, but I'm going to take these 50 cases of 308 Winchester, and we're going to load some 175 grain Sierra Matchkings with some Varget powder. And I'm just going to show you each step of the process and what we do here. It's not a terribly precise process. We're not weighing the cases for, putting them into lots by weight or anything like that. We're just going to show you the steps, and you can decide whether you like the method or not. It's actually pretty simple stuff to do. You just don't have to have terribly awesome technical skills, mechanical implementation or anything like that. The first thing that I like to do with these is actually check for that we have good cases. Now I know that these cases have only been fired once, and this is a Federal cartridge brass. It's not Lake City or anything like that. It's like bulk American Eagle type stuff. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to actually just check to make sure that there's no case head separation, and I'm also going to check the case mouths for any cracking or flaking or anything like that. But again, these should be in good shape, but I do like to check them. So what I'll do first is I'll just check each one, make sure there's no stamp on the head casing where the extractor would have hit it, which would indicate possibly poor head spacing on your rifle. So what I'm going to do first is just check each one, run it over real quick, and I also like to give them a little wipe down because I haven't actually put these in the tumbler. They've come right out of the ejection port and right back into the box, so they're not terribly dirty. But they may have a little dust on them or powder buildup or something, so I just wipe them off and then I put them in the block upside down to indicate that they have been inspected for quality assurance. So checking the head stamp to make sure there's no extractor marks, checking for any case head separation that would be indicated by shiny belts around the case head, and also looking for any cracks or anything like that around the case mouth, and then putting it in there upside down. So check your cases first, and then we'll get to trimming them and lubing them up and all that stuff and shaping them. So that's step one, is just wiping them down and making sure they're actually in pretty good shape, and then we'll go to the next step. Alright, now we're going on to step number two. Now that we've checked all of our cases to see that we have good cases and they're in good shape, what we're going to go move on to is lubrication. Now what I like to do is take a clean Q-tip and actually rub it on here, and then take them and just lube the inside of the case mouth and then turn it upside down. I figure I can get maybe 1 or 2 rows of these done with the moisture that I've collected on one Q-tip. You don't need very much, and you don't want to go down inside there. You also don't want to go around the outside. You just want to lube the inside of the case mouth a little bit. Oops, I'm supposed to be turning these right side up. I will do that sometimes. So we're just lubing the inside of the case mouth, and I'll do all these. Alright, our next step is actually to lube the cases and size the cases. Now I don't do neck sizing, I actually like to do the full length sizing. So what I do is I take my deep primer and full length sizer from Lee. This is a Lee 308 C2. We get this thing set up, put in the shell holder, screw this thing down all the way until it touches. I'm going to back this off a little bit until it touches. Bring it up, take it about 3/4 of a turn additional, and then tighten that up. Now what you do is I like to lube. I'll just lube them one at a time. Just feel it, have my fingers to see if it's got enough lube on it. You'll also be able to tell if it's too tight you'll definitely be able to tell when you actually, it should be fairly smooth. So it looks like we've got enough lube on our pad, and I will now put those upside down again in the loading block to let me know that they're ready for the next step, which would be trimming and cleaning out primer pockets. So the first thing we do here is we're just de-priming and doing a full length size on it. Alright, so our next step is to take these pieces of brass that have just been de-primed and shaped, and we're going to trim them any excess length. I've got my case trimmer chucked up in my little Makita drill here that really makes it nice for your hands. You can really rank on those things and hurt yourself after 50 cases. So then run a 30mm brush in there, and then a little chamfer on the inside and the outside. Then I will wipe it, and then I will go to the final step of cleaning the primer pocket. Tapping it out. I use a primer pocket reamer, not a reamer, but a cleaner. And then I also use a little screwdriver, and I will also take my little screwdriver and run around the inside. Sometimes you can scratch off some additional crap that's built up in there, and you can also feel if there's any case wall separation sometimes, if there's thinning of the case wall. It's an excellent article on Rifleman Journal from German Salazar, who is incidentally also from Arizona, to check for case wall separation. And once that has been wiped down, it is ready to go into the loading block right side up, ready for a priming and then powder charging. So we'll do a couple of these. We just take them, we pop them in, trim to length. Okay, use the brush, we chamfer. I like to use a brush a second time sometimes to get off any rough edges, and then you wipe. Then you take it out, clean the primer pocket, clean the inside, tap, and that's a good case. Now that we've got all of those, all of that brass cleaned up, you can see that it's all been wiped down. Pockets, I can zoom in and focus for you on this in the program to show you the, the pockets are all clean, chamfered on the ends, wiped all the excess lubricant off of them, and they are now ready to put in primers and powder. Today we're using CCI number 200. Large rifle primers and Hodgdon Varget. So what I like to do is actually take one of these little boxes out of here, and I've got my Lee hand priming tool with the large cover, or the large base, and the number 2 holder. And what I'll do is I'll take that off, open this up to show 10. Each of these is 10 rows, so I got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, which is what the number of cartridges that I'm loading. Put that on top of here and flip it over. Now I've got one out of place. I just like to do it with my hand. There's no need to shake it. And then you've got these ready to rock. And this is the fast part where you can get these hand primed really fast. And another thing that I like to do when I'm getting this done, and remember that I like to flip them around once I know what I'm doing here, is right here you can kind of get a feel for how hard it is to push that primer into the primer pocket. If it feels loose to you, like it didn't use very much resistance to go in, then what I like to do is just go ahead and go with it, and take a Sharpie and put LF written on the case. That means last firing. That means that you're not going to load that case anymore. You put it in your bucket and melt it down and make cool things out of it later. So these are all, like I said, these are once fired cases, so these are not going to have any problems. All of them have a good amount of resistance going into the primer pocket. But if I do feel one that feels kind of loose, then I will mark it LF, last firing. And I can run through these really quick, and then we'll get to charging them with powder. And as you can see, I keep forgetting to put them upside down once they're done. I do that sometimes, but I usually catch myself. So I'll be back with you in just a sec, and we will begin to prime these up with the requisite number of grains. Alright folks, so now that we've got our brass all cleaned up and we've got them primed, they're ready to charge with powder. Today we're using Hodgkin Varget, and our particular recipe that we're going to be using for the 175 grain Sierra Matchkings is 44.5 grains. I have zeroed my scale and set it to 44.5 grains, and I have set this hopper up to where it's going to throw a slightly less charge than I need so that I can trickle up. Now if you want to, you can just use the hopper to load the charges that you need. It will throw a fairly accurate charge, and if you were just going to use this ammo for plinking around, doing some target practice, you could just get it set really well and then just throw charges and check like every 10th one or every 5th one if you wanted to be extra careful to make sure that it's not too far off. But it will throw a fairly good charge. Some other powders will meter better than Varget. Varget is a little bit sensitive in this hopper, but it'll be just slightly light or slightly heavy, or most of the time dead on. But if you're going to be loading for accuracy, you're going to want to trickle up to the weight that you're wanting. So I'm going to test this by throwing a charge, and I always do it the same way. You throw it up and down, I tap it 3 times. So I always do it the same way so it's consistent. And then I just dump it into the powder tray there, and I can see that I need to come up a little bit. So what I'll do now is I will trickle up to the weight that I need, making sure that it is precise, because we are going to use this ammo for hand loading. I mean, this ammo is going to be used for precision shooting, possibly out to 1,000 yards is what we're going to intend to do here in just a few days. So that one is ready to go. Now, when you're putting the tray, the powder tray, back onto here, you can have a tendency to bump that slider. Just be real careful and watch it. So now you throw another charge, 3 taps, going into the powder tray, making sure all the powder is out of the case, and then trickling up to the rest of the way. Okay, that one is just a little bit light, so we'll now trickle up, so we'll have precisely 44.5 grains. And that is the method we will use to perform precision shooting ammo. And that's how you do it for precision. If you wanted again to just set the hopper and throw charges, check every 10th one, you can totally do that and get some very good accurate ammo. But we are loading for precision, and that's about as precise as I get. Remember, I told you at the beginning that I'm not weighing the cases or filling them full of water to see precisely how much they will carry. So we're not going that crazy. But this is going to provide us some very accurate ammo. And I'll load a few more, and you can you know, just check some footage. And then in just a couple of minutes here, we'll be ready to put on the tops. Put some projectiles on them. So hang in with me for just a moment, and we'll be ready to rock. Double check the scale each time you throw a charge, because you will bump it. It's very sensitive. Should take just a couple of turns of the powder hopper, trickle charger, and there we go. 44.5 grains. Alright, so now we're ready to put some bullets on. You see I kind of got everything set up for you so I can show you, but I'm going to dial this back. Now all you have to do is push the hammer all the way down and then run it down until it touches, and then tighten it up. Right about there. We take our case, take one of these 175 grain Sierra Matchkings, pop it in there, and we'll see what we got. 2.802. It's slightly short, so I'm going to dial that back just a little bit. .807. Now you want to notice here that these are not going to be perfect just measuring with a pair of dial calipers. You're not going to get a perfect measurement. These bullets are not perfectly uniform. So if you're between 2.803, 2.805, 2.807, that's about as good as you're going to do just using a dial caliper. We're not using a bullet comparator to measure from the ogive, or some would say ogive, of the bullet where it actually is beginning to curve. We could do that if we wanted to get into precise length, but I have not yet tested the new barrel on the 308 for the actual lead length of the bore throat. So this is going to be a roundabout number, and we can and will do that with that rifle. In order to get it to shoot a little bit more accurately, we will test the overall length on these things and make sure that they're applied specifically to that barrel. But for these, we've got 2.809, so these are going to be slightly different just because the bullet manufacturing process is not perfect from stem to tip. Okay, 2.806, so somewhere right in that area is going to be about as good as we're going to get this with this, doing this press with a dial caliper. But like I said, if you want to get a bullet comparator to do measuring from the ogive, then you can do that. That's 2.805. Okay, we'll do a couple more. Get it fairly consistent. You should be pretty good. .802. This one here is 2.806, so they're going to be slightly different each one, but this is as precise as we're going to get with this method of measuring these things. So I'll continue to put the bullets on these things and get them wrapped up, and then in a couple of days we'll get out there and actually do some shooting and show you how they shoot. So thanks for being with us and watching us do this process. I hope that you'll be able to learn something and get out there and load your own ammo. This stuff, 20 rounds of this stuff with Varget powder and 175 grain Matchkings is not cheap. You're talking 30 bucks really is a pretty decent price. $29 to $30 for essentially what I would consider to be an M118 or a Sierra Matchking Federal Gold Medal match. It's an equivalent load, and you're going to pay between $30 and $40 for a box of 20 of these things. If you find them for $32, $34, you're doing a pretty good deal. Sometimes they're 40 bucks for a box of these things. That's almost $2 a bullet. You can load them for a lot less. So we'll get out there and shoot these for you and see how they shoot. But again, thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll check you out next time.